Hello all, Thatbigbird here. This is episode 3 of ACL. It is currently, you can see, you can't see. It's not that late actually, it's only 10:45 right now. And we're going to try something, I'm not sure if it'll work. We are going to start. Okay, camera seems to be functioning, that's always a good sign. Yeah, we are going to be taking an SAT right now. It's going to be like an ASMR style video. Isn't that cute? Yeah, I know. She's also surprised that my high school account still works. We're gonna throw out this one actually. I did a small practice test for like 5 minutes earlier. So let's take an SAT. Let's go with practice test 3. No, I could dominate accommodations. My yes. Low key. Wait, 1 second. I'm gonna put on the headphones. We might listen to music while we do this. I'm not even gonna test it and rewatch this video. All right. So, it's already started. Okay. I'll kind of walk you through my thinking process, I think, as well while I do this. It's gonna be an educational video. This is perfect. I can put him right under me. Mm-hmm. Guys, I have plenty of time, don't worry. Okay. After Marilyn Dingle's intricate coiled baskets are blank, sweetgrass, and palmetto parm. Oh, it's probably handmade. Because usually when they say intricate coiled baskets, it means it's not going to be another adjective, right? But we'll keep looking into it. I would obviously go for handmade immediately. Usually baskets are handmade, especially probably in this scenario. See the word Africa. That also makes me think handmade a little bit. Let's create. And then this is going to be your key if you're actually going to read the full thing. No factory. It's handmade. No question about it. Some researchers believe that the genes that enable groundhogs and certain other mammals to hibernate through the winter by slowing their breathing and heart rates and lowering their body temperature may be blank in humans. And then we're going to have to read the next sentence. This will give it to us. Ready? Present yet having essentially no effect on our bodily processes. Let's read up these words. Decisive, lacking, variable, and dormant. Now, when we read this, this actually defines one of these 4 words. If you haven't guessed it yet, the word is dormant. Dormant things are present, yet they generally don't have an effect. It lies dormant. Diseases may be dormant, and then something will bring them out. Ulcerative colitis, for example. I have ulcerative colitis, and it's generally dormant unless stress comes into my life, and then it kind of builds up. Diego Velázquez was the leading artist in the court of King Philip IV of Spain during the 17th century, but his influence was hardly blank Spain. Realist and impressionist painters around the world employed his techniques and echoed elements of his style. This is an interesting one. So we're talking about the world, and then we're talking about Spain, right? So we have this artist in the court of the king during the 17th century. His was regularly, we're going to go with, we would think recognized, but we're going to keep reading it. Was recognized in Spain. This wouldn't really make sense considering he was an artist in the court of the king. Usually if you're in the court of the king, you're a recognized person. Realist and impressionist painters around the world employed his techniques and echoed elements of his style. This is a hard one. This is a really hard one. So I would say derived from, generally, right? Was hardly derived from Spain. But his influence was hardly confined to Spain. Oh my gosh, this is so easy. Yes, confined to Spain. For a lot of these questions, if you're struggling with them, just run through this sentence and then this sentence with this, just run down the list, and then I see confined to, boom, it works just so well. Alright, next. Though science fiction was dominated mostly by white male authors, when Octavia Butler, a black woman, began writing, she did not view the genre as blank. We're gonna go with impenetrable. Next. Come on, guys, this is too easy. The following text is adopted from Nathaniel Hawthorne's 1844 short story, Drown's Wooden Image. Drown, a young man, is carving a wooden figure to decorate the front of a ship. Day by day, the work assumed greater precision. As used in the text, what does the word assumed most nearly mean? Now, if you're reading this, you're probably saying, that doesn't make sense. That's not what assumed means. This doesn't fit here. You're probably right. You're wrong, but you're generally right. No one would actually use that there. What they're looking for is just replace this with these 4 words and see which one fits the best. The work blank greater precision. The work acquired. The work acknowledged. The work acknowledged greater. That wouldn't make sense. Word imitated greater precision? Probably not. And the word speculated greater precision? That doesn't make sense. But acquired actually wouldn't make much sense. Well, I think acquired would make sense. Required would make more sense, though. So that's going to be a tricky one, always for me. So I go, well, required works even better in that they're synonyms, so maybe they're going in the other direction. Misty outline into distincter grace and beauty. The general design was... Whoa. See, mind blank for a second there. The work assumed greater precision and settled its irregular and misty outline into distincter and this. Basically, it required more. Yeah, it's just that. That's pretty easy. The following text is from Walt Whitman's 1860 poem, Columnus Whatever. I hear it is charged against me that I seek to destroy institutions, but really I am neither for nor against institutions. What indeed have I in common with them, or what? The instruction of them. Blah 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 blah. Only I wish in Manhattan and in every city of these states, inland and seaboard, and in fields and woods, and above every keel, ship, little or large, against the water, without edifices, rules, trustees, or any argument. The institution of the dear love of comrades. Alright. Which choice best describes the overall structure of the text? The speaker questions an increasingly prevalent attitude and summarizes his world view. This one's doable. It might be true. The speaker regrets his isolation from others, then predicts a profound change. This doesn't really make sense. Regrets? I don't really see the term regret. And I really am neither... I hear it is charged against me that I seek to destroy institutions. This doesn't feel right. Yeah, it seems like he's like mad that thinks that he's mad at the government. 1860, use context if you want, but you don't really need it. The speaker concedes his personal shortcomings, then boasts of how many of his achievements. Let's see any achievements. Seeker addresses criticism labeled against him, then announces a grand ambition of his. I like this one the most. It is charged against me. That's some criticism right there. And announces a grand ambition of his. Only I will establish in Manhattan without this. I love my buddies. I think this works the best. Utah is home to Pando, a colony of about 47,000 quaking aspen trees that all share a single root system. Pando is one of the largest single organisms by mass on Earth. This is actually a really fun fact. I would highly recommend doing some more reading on this, because this may actually be on your SAT. Ecologists are worried that its growth is declining, in part because of the grazing by animals. If you know grazing, that's eating. The ecologists say that strong fences could prevent deer from eating trees and help pandos start thriving again. According to the text, why are ecologists worried about pando? Its growth is declining. Is there a way to highlight that? Yeah, its growth is declining, right? It isn't growing at the same rate it used to. It isn't producing young trees anymore. It grows into new areas because it's blocked by fences. Its roots can't support any more trees. So it's really going to be between these two. But I wouldn't say this, because it's really saying no more trees. It's not true. This would probably be the right one. It isn't producing... No, sorry. It isn't growing at the same rate it used to, because the deer are eating it. This is more scientific, mathematical. This one just makes the most sense. If deer are eating you, right, you're not growing at the same rate. But you might think, oh, why is it this one then? Its root system can't support. Well, this doesn't really... The animal doesn't have any impact on this. This would assume that the root system itself has reached its independent carrying capacity. I don't know. I don't want to use too big terms, but that's the reasoning in my head. Cats can judge unseen people's positions in space by the sound of their voices, and thus react with surprise when the same person calls to them from two different locations in a short span of time. Takagi and colleagues reached this conclusion by measuring cats' levels of surprise based on their ear and head movements. While the cat heard recordings of their owners' voices from two speakers spaced far apart. Cats exhibited a low level of surprise when owners' voices were played twice from the same speaker, but they showed a high level of surprise when the voice was played from each of the two. You know what that means. According to the text, how did the researchers determine the level of surprise displayed? They watched they examined how each cat reacted to the voice. They tracked how each cat moved around the room. Interesting, I didn't see this. Based on their ear and head movements. Okay. So this one. Which choice best describes the main idea of this text? Culinary anthropologist. Don't worry about that word. Known for her decades of work in the national public and her book, Vibration Cooking. The travel notes of a Geechee girl is likely her most influential project. The 1970 book, whose title refers to Smart Garzivar's roots in the low country of South Carolina. It's unusual for its time. Combined memoir, recipe, blah blah blah. Okay. Unconventional book, this thing, is an important contribution to food writing. Maybe? This isn't a good one. This is not a good description, because it's really just summarizing what the book is about. That's like the bulk of this text, right? I like to do these ones based on quantity. If it ever asks what the main component of something is, we always look at the quantity instead of the quality. We see like 2 sentences here. That's like more than half, in my opinion, of the actual text. It's just describing what it is, right? The travel notes didn't receive the praise it deserved. Time is where inspired. This doesn't make sense. Well, this one makes sense, but this one doesn't make sense. It's just very influential. Yeah, no. This one doesn't make sense. It could be either of these, to be honest with you. So probably not one of these, right? We're gonna... What? I just eliminated these two. Yeah, so it's gonna be one of these, I assume. And then when I do these, I usually go for the one that's longer, if I get it to a 50-50. But this one just doesn't make sense. Oh, sorry. I did this wrong. That one's crossed out. So between these two, this one's longer, so we'll go with that one. Which quotation from O Pioneers most effectively illustrates the claim? Cather depicts Alexandra Bergenson as a person who takes comfort in understanding the world around her. See, this one looks horrible. I would skip this one. Go with... Those are... Takes comfort in understanding the world. That means it's going to be a long text. Sounds good. Which choice most logically completes the text? Several artworks found among the ruins of the ancient Roman city of Pompeii depict a female figure fishing with a cupid nearby. Some scholars have asserted that the figure is the goddess Venus, since she is known to have been linked with cupids in Roman culture. But University of Leicester archaeologist Carla Brain suggests that cupids may have also been associated with fishing generally. The fact that a cupid is shown near the figure, near the female figure, therefore, is not conclusive evidence. Yes. I mean, I could explain that one, but that's just the basic logic. And documents called judicial opinions. I should read this. Most logically complete. So we're going to complete this. I like these. These are fun. In documents called judicial opinions, judges explain their reasoning behind their legal rulings, and in those explanations, they sometimes cite and discuss historical, contemporary philosophers. Oh, that's it? Oh boy. Wait. I'm going to get copyright striked. Give me 1 second. Because I actually am having a bit of trouble. Oh, stop playing. Well, I don't want to get copyright striked. Okay. Let's find some copyright-free music. No. I like the idea of lo-fi though, so we'll go with a lo-fi. Nah, bro, I ain't listening to this. This is like an advertisement. Yeah, this'll do. It's weird that you can actually get copyright striked by Mozart. I don't know why. It's just I've been copyright striked before, so okay. So in documents called judicial opinions, judges explain their reasoning behind their legal rulings. In those explanations, they sometimes cite and discuss historical and contemporary philosophers, legal scholars, and philosopher Anita L. Allen argues that while judges are naturally inclined to mention philosophers whose views align with their own positions, the strongest judicial opinions consider and rebut potential objections. Discussing philosophers whose views conflict with judges could therefore allow judges to craft judicial opinions without needing to consult philosophical works. This doesn't make sense, right? We're looking for philosophers whose views conflict with judges' views. What? Discussing philosophers conflict would therefore make judicial opinions more comprehensible to readers, bring judicial opinions in line with views that are broadly held among philosophers, to craft judicial opinions without needing to consult. This doesn't make sense. Argues that while judges are naturally inclined to mention philosophers whose views align with their own position, the strongest judicial. Oh. But therefore, okay, so here it says, right, the strongest judicial opinions consider and rebut potential objections. Discussing philosophers whose views conflict, therefore, would make their case stronger. So that would, I think, most go along well with this. Yes. Many of William Shakespeare's tragedies address broad themes that still apply to today's audiences. For example, Romeo and Juliet, which is set in Italy, blah blah blah, tackles the themes of parents versus children, love versus hate, and the play continues to be read and produced widely around the world, but understanding Shakespeare's so-called history plays can require knowledge of several centuries of English history. Consequently, which choice many theatergoers and readers today are likely to find his history plays less engaging than the tragedies. This doesn't make sense. Some of his tragedies are more likely to today's audiences. No, this doesn't make sense. Romeo and Juliet is the most thematically... No. Experts in English history tend to prefer it than others because, and I'll read it, understanding the so-called history... Experts in English history. Easy. In her analysis of Edith Ward's The House of Mirth, scholar Candace Wade observes that the novel depicts the upper classes of New York City as consumed by the appetite of a soulless blank. An apt assessment given The House of Mirth is set during the Gilded Age, a period during which rapid industrialization, economic greed, and waning money. Oh shoot, this doesn't care at all. Okay, standard English. Good luck with this one. So you start with this, you're going to want to end with that. But the question is, where do we put the comma? I would do this. That's how I would write it. Yeah, this works really well. I don't think there would be an and in this situation. Yeah, that makes sense. Based on genetic evidence, archaeologists have generally agreed that reindeer domestication began in the earliest century CE. However, since uncovering the fragments of a 2,000-year-old reindeer training harness in northern Siberia... What? So what I'd recommend is don't read any of it. Always read the question. Always. We always do this. Right? We know this just cares about English, so don't read the rest of it. Don't bother. Researcher Robert has argued. Oh, okay, well, read the sentence. Since uncovering fragments. It's that one. I won't explain why. You'll have to learn grammar yourself. I'll teach you that later. Conceptual artist and designer embraced by both the art world and the fashion world. Oh my gosh, these are the worst. Sorry, I don't remember how to do any of these. So this one I would go stuck between these two. And it's never a semicolon, in my opinion. I've only seen a semicolon once. I've done over 1,800 examples. So, you know, just risk it. Professional American football player Fred Cox invented one of the world's most popular toys. In the 1970s, he came up with the idea for the Nerf football. And once again, please don't read this. I'm only reading this because I'm trying to, you know, lose as much time as possible. Which blank of the harder and heavier regular? Which... Okay, so what's weird is in the 1970s he came up with this, which were the... No. The idea for the... He came up with the idea for the Nerf football, which are smaller foam versions of the thing, which is a smaller foam version. Okay, so what I would say is which was a smaller version. which are smaller if the Nerf football. Yeah, so he says the Nerf football, which is one football, which would mean it is a, right? This would describe all Nerf footballs. It's complicated, but yeah, pluralization is important for that one. Beatrix Potter is perhaps best known for writing and illustrating children's books, such as The Tale of Peter Rabbit. It doesn't matter. She also depicted herself to mycology, the study of fungi. See, I would use the comma, because this is really building off of the last thing you said. But it's definitely not this. It's definitely not that. Could be this. Might be this. Once again, don't fall into the semicolon trap. It's almost never a semicolon. I have a problem. I use commas a lot in my everyday writing. So after this, we're going to see if I got that right or not. African American. Who cares? Standard English. Named in 1999 as one of the greatest achievements by a U.S. chemist in the past 100 years. Blank led to the first mass-produced treatment. Lillian synthesized the alkaloid. Named in this, which means we're talking about Julian himself. This is what I would say. So we're saying named, which means we're talking about a specific achievement, right? This wouldn't make sense when describing a certain noun, if that makes sense. This one, I think, fits the noun thing the most. So we're going to go with that. Although this technically does more, but semicolon trap, we don't fall for it, guys. Imagine this is the only one where there are like 5 semicolons. The first thing, English, by automatically updating all calculations that were dependent on these adjustments. See, prior to the thing changing a paper, which means it's going to be a period. This is a long sentence. Look, this is where the sentence starts. It's not going to be one sentence. No one would do that. It's going to be 2 sentences. Which completes the text with the most logical transition. She first taught volunteers eye movements they would use to respond to basic math problems while asleep. Single left-right movement indicated the number 1. Next, she attached electrodes to the things. Yeah, first, whatever you receive first, it's going to be next. Sue, first. What comes after first? Second. Every chemical compound has a spectroscopic fingerprint, a pattern of reflected light unique to that compound. Upon analyzing the light reflected by the thing, alright, so we're defining a thing, and then we're using that thing. That would work best in this. Meanwhile, there's no story here. Regardless would mean it's contradictory. That doesn't make sense. Comparison would mean 2 equal things. This is something from the past, something from the present, something that's a noun, something that's a verb. Wouldn't make sense. Thus, is a really good bridger between 2 different mediums, if that makes sense. It doesn't make sense. Every chemical compound has a spectroscopic fingerprint. I'm not even going to look at this. Yeah, this just works the best. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. Severo Oka. Oh boy, this one looks cringe. The student wants to emphasize the significance of Ocha's discovery. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information? Okay, I'm just going to read it myself, and we'll try to knock it out quick. And a real exam, I would skip this one and come back to it later. This is probably going to be important. This is a new category. I've never seen these questions before. Looks important, actually. It's too broad. '60s, was trying to present the significance of this act to an unfamiliar audience with the history of U.S. immigration. Slots were reserved for immigrants from Great Britain, Ireland, and this. At the time that this was proposed. This one looks important. It's probably this. Wait. Abolish the national origins quota system, which favored immigrants from Northern Europe. If this is true, then this makes the most sense. People from a country lived in the US. Favored immigrants from this. Almost 70% for that. This one, got rid of it. That makes so much sense. I love that answer. See? Take your time. Find it all. Answer it. Like, we even might have time to go back. We won't. I don't want to. That just looks like a lot of reading. So we skip the questions. So what? We're going to get a 1600 either way. We won't, actually. Sorry. We're going to get over a 1400 either way, which is a really good score, by the way. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. The student wants to explain the advantage of the women and the vote format. Which choice most effectively uses relevant information from the notes to accomplish this goal? Women in the Vote featured a drawing of a Victorian... What? No. This doesn't make sense. To access video clips, audiences had to first click? No. Format appealed to audiences because it allowed them to control the experience. Using this, created this, play about that. Which one? It's one of these. Could be any of them, man. Back. Yeah, okay. Okay. Which quotation illustrates the claim? Depicts as a person who takes comfort in understanding the world around her. She looked fixedly, understanding. She looked fixedly at the blank street, to say something as if she were trying with all her might to grasp a situation which, no matter how painful, must be met and dealt with somehow. She's trying to grasp this situation, understand the world around her. She had never known before how much the country meant to her. Everything other this thing guy that doesn't make sense. The rattle of the wagon had a moving point along the path. Some things she always loved to watch at the look clear. No. Boom. Done. How do I... A review page. Next. Boom. With 1 second left. Genius. Right, section 2. We're already starting it. That's rough. Interruptions in the supply chain for microchips used in personal electronics have challenged economists' assertion that retailers can expect robust growth in sales of those devices in the coming months. The delays are unlikely to blank her projection. This looks almost the same as the last one we just did. Am I crazy? Okay. Challenge. Retailers can expect robust growth in sales. Delays are unlikely to... have challenged her assertion. Unlikely to blank entirely. Validate would be one that's like big deal. We don't want a big. We're looking for a big deal. Underscore is less. Who cares? Withdraw or projection doesn't make sense. Dispute. It already disputes it a little. You can dispute a little. Just you can't invalidate a little. It doesn't really, you know. Within baleen whale species, some individuals develop an accessory spleen, a seemingly functionless formation of splenetic tissue outside the normal spleen. Given the formation's greater prevalence among whales known to make deeper dives, some researchers hypothesize that its role isn't blank. Rather, the accessory spleen may actively support diving mechanisms. So we're surprised that it might actually help us with something, which means it's not latent. The other ones, this is good. This makes no sense. This makes no sense. Latent. Another secret, if you don't know what any of this means, you don't have time to read it, go through all of these. Replicable and predetermined. Right? You see these? Operative, latent. Now these two words are antonyms. Right? They mean the opposite thing. Generally, when you see antonyms, it's going to be one of these two. That's what I've learned in my time taking these exams. So I see these two. It's going to be one of these two. Maybe you'll have time. Isn't this rather may actively support? It's obviously latent in that case. But if you don't even have time for that, just choose one. Which choice completes the text? According to a U.S. tax policy expert, state taxes are blank. Other factors when considering an interstate move. Even significant differences in state taxation have almost no effect. See? Differences in state taxation have almost no effect on people's decisions, while differences in employment opportunities, housing, and this have strong. So that means it's not as, what word did they use? Effective. So which of these means effective? State taxes are overshadowed, right? Seminole Muskogee director, this guy, television's tendency. Okay, let's just try one of these. Foretells television's tendency to situate Native Americans in the distant past. This rejection is evident in his series Reservation Dogs, which revolves around teenagers who dress in contemporary styles and whose dialogue is laced with current slag. So he's not happy about something. Which of these means he's not happy? This one doesn't. Proclaim is to predict. Foretell is to predict. We can kind of eliminate because these are kind of the same. Which puts us between recants and repudiates. Now here's my problem. I don't know what either of these words mean. What do we do when we don't know what the two words that are left mean? I don't know. Just go with one at random. I hate to break it to you, that's the best I can do for you. Unless you are willing to review vocabulary every single day for the next 2 years. Sorry, that's just how it's gonna be. But you save a lot of time doing that, so. 1929, The Atlantic Monthly published several articles based on the newly discovered letters allegedly exchanged between Lincoln and a woman named Anne. Historians were unable to validate, I can already tell you, the authenticity of these letters. The following text is adopted from this text called Mansfield Park. The speaker, Tom, is considering staging a play at home with a group of his friends and family. We mean nothing but a little amusement among ourselves, just to vary the scene and exercise our powers in something new. We want no audience, no publicity. We may be trusted, I think, choosing some play most perfectibly unexecutionable, and I can conceive no greater harm or danger to any of us in conversing in the elegant written language of some respectable author than in chattering in words of our own. Let's take it in for a second. Right? Saying, we mean nothing but a little bit of this. We want none of this, none of that. We may be trusted in choosing. And then he's going to talk about words some point here. Words. I just want to talk, man. We just want to talk to you. We don't want to make it a big deal. We just want to talk a little. Boom. Which choice best reflects the function of the underlined sentence and the text as a whole? Well, I'm going to read it to you. I don't know what you should do. If you have time, you should read it. I have time, so I'm going to read it. Perhaps 10-year-old John was puzzling to the folk there in the Florida woods, for he was an imaginative child and fond of daydreams. The St. John River flowed a scarce 300 feet from his back door. On its banks at this point grew numerous palms, luxuriant magnolias, and bay trees. On the bosom of the stream float millions of decorately colored hyacinths. John loved to wander down to the water's edge and castily, in dry twigs, watch them sail down the thing to the place with the stuff. So, interestingly, this is the first mention of John, in my opinion, right? 10-year-old was puzzling to the folk there in Florida. We talk about the river, and then we say he loved to do this at the river. That's how this sentence is laid out. So it provides an extended description of the location that he likes to visit. It reveals that this has nothing to do with it. No, this doesn't make sense. The uniqueness of his imagination compared to the imagination of other children. Possibly. Longs to experience a larger life. I feel like that says, I didn't read that. Love to wander down, watch them sail away down the stream to see the wide world, and he wanted to follow them. Okay, you're right, it's that. Lily had no real intimacy with nature, but she had a passion for the appropriate and could be keenly sensitive to a scene which was the flitting background of her blah blah blah. The landscape outspread below her seemed an enlargement of her present mood. She found something of herself in the calmness, breath, long free reaches of nature. Detailed image of the physical setting which alleged that the character is experiencing an eternal conflict. No, make an assertion that the next sentence then expands upon. No. That is introduced in the previous one. Yes. Ecologists have long wondered how thousands of microscopic phytoplankton species live together near ocean surfaces competing for the same resources. According to conventional wisdom, one species should emerge after outcompeting the rest. So why do so many remain? Let's read text 2 now. Ecologist Michael Behelfeld and colleagues have connected their diversity to their microscopic size. Because they are so tiny, they are spaced relatively far apart from each other in the ocean water, and therefore, moreover, experience that water as a relatively dense substance. This in turn makes it hard for them to move around and interact with one another. Therefore, they believe that direct competition among them probably happens much less than previously thought. So how would he react to the idea, right, that they outcompete each other? He would probably think that this claim doesn't make a lot of sense, given what he knows, you know? Where's the music stopped? I just noticed. Where's the music? Oh. I guess this is way quieter than classical. Oh, well, yeah, right. I didn't want it to be too loud because it's educational. I want you to be hearing me more than them. Okay. Based on the texts, how would he... Yeah, he would argue that it is based on my misconception. I think this is probably it. Number and origin of these shell tools found at different levels below the surface in a cave. Which choice most effectively uses data from the table to support the research team's conclusion? Clamshells become thin and eroded as they wash up on the beach, while those on the seafloor are smooth and sturdy, so the research team suspects that Neanderthals prized the tools made with seafloor shells. However, the team also concluded that those tools were likely more challenging to obtain, noting that I hate this question. I would skip this one. The number of tools of each type suggests that they collect from the beach. I don't understand this. Oh, you son of a gun, dude. They're not even in order. 2, 3, 4, 5. No, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6. Oh, 5, 6, 6, 7. Bro, don't do that to me. They were all found at 3 to 4. Okay, well, this is obviously the answer. Which makes sense. The reason why I know this is the answer is out of this entire table, right? The only number I find interesting is the 99. That's a much bigger number than any of the other numbers. Something that I guess they do now, as they just shuffled around all of the rows basically. So this is the most interesting number on the table in that case, because look, there's something less than it, that's 7. And there's something more than it at 2. So it's kind of weird that they're all between 3 and 4. I'm not going to read anything else. I just know that's the answer. Psychologists Thatcher, Keltner, and Jonathan Haidt have argued that experiencing awe, a sensation of reverence and wonder, typically brought on by perceiving something grand or powerful, can enable us to feel more connected to others and thereby inspire us to act more altruistically. Keltner, along with Paul K. Piff, Pia Dietz, and colleagues, claims to have found evidence for this effect in a recent study where participants were asked to either gaze up at exceptionally tall trees in a nearby grove, reported to be a universally awe-inspiring experience, or stare at the exterior of a nearby nondescript building. After 1 minute, an experimenter deliberately spilled a box of pens nearby, which finding from the research study, if true, most strongly supports the claim. Participants who had been looking at the trees helped the experimenter pick up significantly more pens than did the other guys. This would make the most sense. Political scientists who favor the traditional view of voter behavior claim that voting in an election does not change a voter's attitude toward the candidates in that election. Focusing on each U.S. presidential election from 1976 to 1999, Ibonia, Washington, and Sandil Mulubaraba tested this claim by distinguishing between subjects who had just become old enough to vote, around half of whom actually voted, and otherwise similar subjects who were slightly too young to vote, and thus none of whom voted. Washington and the other guy compared the attitudes of the groups of subjects toward the winning candidate 2 years after the election. Which finding from these guys' study, if true, would most directly weaken the claim made by people who favor the traditional view of voter behavior. And we reread the first sentence now. Traditional view claims that voting in an election does not change voters' attitude toward the candidate. So voting in an election does not change a voter's attitude toward the candidates. Subjects' attitude toward the winning candidate 2 years after a given election was strongly predicted by subjects would make the claim correct. Subjects who were not old enough to vote in an election held significantly more positive attitude toward the winning candidate than 2 years later. 2 years later than they had at the time, possibly. Subjects who voted in a given election held significantly more polarized attitudes toward the winning candidate 2 years later than did subjects who were not old enough. Now, these two are very similar, which means neither of them are true. 2 years after a given election, subjects who voted and subjects who were not old enough to vote were significantly more likely to express negative attitudes than positive attitudes toward the winning candidate in that election. This is also incorrect, actually, because we're supposed to be proving that the people who did vote and the people that did not vote are different. So this one is false, given by that, which is the most substantial evidence. And this one also, subjects who are not old enough held significantly more positive. Which means it would be this one, subjects who voted given more polarized than did subjects who were, because we are actually comparing, and this one we did not compare, which is pretty tricky. Alright, power conversion efficiency of lowest and highest performing spin-coated and spray-coated electron transport layers. This guy's things do stuff. Which choice best describes data from the graph that support his things? I hate to break it to you. I would do this one if I took it. I don't have time though. King Lear, play the character of the king, attempts to test his 3 daughters' devotion. Later expresses regret for his actions, as is evident when he says of himself, "I'm a man more sinned against than sinning." Says during a growing storm, "The tempest will not give me let to ponder on things would hurt me more." Says to himself while striking his head, "Beat at this gate, that let thy folly in, and thy dear judgment out." Says to himself, "I will do such things, what they are yet I know not, but they shall be the terrors of the earth." Good luck with this one. B doesn't make sense. I thought I found the idea of judgment out. C doesn't make sense. D says to himself, I will do such things that what they are. D doesn't make sense. A is the answer, which is what I actually assumed at the beginning. Effects of the fungi. Several weeks, the student measured the plant's average mass and was surprised to discover that. So it's going to be a claim that's actually different than what's in the paragraph before it. As we see, they were surprised. And it's going to be something that's true in the table. I assume most of these will be true in the table. One of them might not be. The student chooses 3 plant species for it. Fungi in soil benefit many plants, substantially increasing the mass of some, including 2 that are these, 1 that is this. The student then grew several plants and treated to kill it. So something that probably surprised them the most is if these guys were different. That would surprise them, because we said that, I mean, the only data points that we know are is it a thing or is it not a thing? And I'm sure the experiment is trying to conclude if it's a thing, number bigger, or if it's a thing, number smaller. Only possible answer. So let's see if any of these specifically talk about marigold and corn. It says broccoli. Which means we can eliminate it. Corn grown in soil containing this thing had a higher average mass than broccoli. No. Marigolds in soil containing had a much higher than marigolds grown in soil that had been treated to kill it. This might be the answer. Corn had the highest average mass of all 3. Yeah, this would be the right answer. So it wasn't even about the M. It's actually about the other column. Average mass of plants grown in soil containing the fungi. Average mass of plants grown in soil treated to kill fungi. And yeah, you'll be surprised. Marigolds grown in soil containing it had a much higher than this. Is that surprising? Choctaw Cherokee artist turns punching bags used by boxers into art by decorating with beadwork and elements of native dressmaking. These elements include leather fringe and jingles, the metal cones that cover the dresses worn in the jingle dance, a woman's dance of the Ojibwe people. Thus, Gibson combines an object commonly associated with masculinity with art forms traditionally practiced by women in most native communities. In this way, he rejects the diversion of male and female gender roles. Which choice best describes his approach to art as presented in the text? He draws from traditional native art forms to create his original works. I don't think this one's true, but it could be. I would say it's going to be one that's, I don't want to use the word woke, but it's going to be the most woke answer. He finds inspiration from boxing and designing the dresses he makes, not woke. C. He rejects expectations about color and pattern when incorporating beadwork. A little woke. D. He has been influenced by native and non-native artists equally. Oh, I hate it when they say this. Generally, if they ever say, this guy and this guy equally, you can't say that. That's not how these things work. It's supposed to be a spectrum. So won't be that one. Let's reread the thing. Plus, he combines an object. I mean, this looks like such a big part. So, he throws a bunch of native stuff onto a thing that's not a native thing. And a bunch of girly native stuff onto a manly real non-native thing. So yeah, it's probably this one. But I don't know. I mean, to be fair, I've never taken an exam in the new world. These exams are so different than when I took it. A team of biologists led by this guy did this thing right at the very bottom. But at 27 degrees Celsius, the unmodified plants exhibited accelerated flowering, while he altered ones did not. So when things got hotter, the ones that he altered did not flower more. The hell is an eighth anomaly? Temperature sensitive accelerated flowering is unique to the guy. Yeah. Well, not necessarily, because we don't know. Okay, so EL3 is in eighth Almama usually. When they did this study, they did it without the thing. So that thing must be what leads to that. I think that's a pretty general solution. The 47 geothermal springs of this hot spring did stuff. In this case, the porous rocks of the hills around hot springs. Oh shoot, 5 minutes? Let's go fast. Sorry, pardon my speed, but I do want to get a pretty good score. Okay. In which rainwater percolates downward through the earth. In this case, the porous... Oh, this is the easiest question. If you ever see a long dash and you don't see the end of the long dash, the answer is going to have a long dash in it. Oops. And journalists have dubbed Gil Scott Hernan the godfather of blah blah blah. Scott himself resisted the Godfather nickname. However, that feeling. So it's you never want anything after the however. It's always in front of the however. You want however to have nothing after it. Jam tasting booth at a grocery store. The number of jams available for tasting varied. I'm going to use a colon on this one. Varied. Some of them were like that. Recreated and then reprogrammed so-called genetic setters of a thing. I love this. I've actually read this exact paper. Isn't that fun? It's CRISPR. It's what I was gonna do my research on when I grow up. Then reprogram the so-called things. DNA cleaving bacteria. Okay, sorry. Song just kind of threw me off because I've heard this song. Working from an earlier discovery of this guy's thing, winners of this recreated and then reprogrammed the so-called thing of a species of thing to forge. Whoa. Okay, so reprogrammed this thing. You would think it wouldn't be this. Bacteria. Recreated this thing. Forging the thing. I didn't know how to explain it. A study published at This Guy's Thing offers a new explanation for the origin of Earth's continents. What's a continent? Geological. Wait. Geological structures called arcs, towering ridges that form when a dense. What? Sorry, I'm really confused. Okay, this is a different sentence, period. Boom. Which choice completes the text with the most logical transition? Triggering a chemical reaction whereby the oxygen combines with chemicals in the firefly's abdomen to produce a glow when the firefly stops drawing in. Therefore. By contrast. Oh no, these things. I hate these. I'm not good enough at these to do them fast, so you want to save yourself time on the reading and writing section. Man, where's the reading section? It's gonna pop up, right? Dude, I swear, I've been thinking this the whole time. I don't think you guys have a reading section. You only have writing section. That's not fair at all. That's not fair. I'm almost as mad as the guys who used to have essays on their exams, and then we had to do it without the essay. And then now you guys don't have to read? This is so dumb. You're so lucky. Do you know, that was the hardest part of the exam. The only thing I ever got wrong. I literally would have gotten a 1600 if the reading section wasn't on the exam. I might retake it with you. I might. While researching a topic, a student has taken the following notes. A student wants to emphasize how hot the sun is relative to nearby stars. I think I'm running out of time, but I don't really care. No, that's so dumb. That's so dumb. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. I'm gonna do the rest tomorrow because it is. Oh no, you couldn't see the time the whole time. It's midnight now, so I'm probably gonna. I might take a break. I don't know. We'll see. We're gonna stop recording.